The Minnesota Timberwolves have gotten off to an inconsistent start this year after having super high expectations based off their 2024 season, where they made it to the Western Conference Finals. But a big move that had a lot of skepticism at the time, and it hasn't really aged all too well this season, was trading away Karl-Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks for Donte DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, and a future first-round pick. Obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns meant so much to the city of Minnesota, but because of the new NBA CBA, they eventually had to trade him because they had extensions for Rudy Gobert coming up, and Naz Reid as well. And like I said, it has been inconsistent so far, and I feel like the overall vibes and chemistry of this team has not been where Minnesota's front office wants it to be at right now.
We looked like front runners for sure tonight. Like, we was down, nobody wanted to say nothing, then we got up, then everybody like cheering and hype, and then we get down again and don't nobody say nothing. That's the definition of a front runner. We've been trying to figure this out for the whole year, man. We thought this was defense was our identity, and it's not looking like it at all. We don't know what our identity right now. Me and Mike was talking about. I think is we soft as hell, like as a team internally. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not to the other team, but like internally, like we soft. Like, we can't talk to each other. It's a bunch of little kids. It's just like we playing with a bunch of little kids, like everybody, like the whole team. We gotta figure it out, man, because we can't go down this road.
What do you feel like could be that change for you guys defensively to get that identity back?
Doing what the tell us to do, like that's what I mean. Like, the coach tells us one thing, and we go out there and do a whole nother thing. Like that's not our game plan. I don't know, man. It's crazy right now. I don't really know. Everybody got a different agenda, you know. So it's like, what the am I supposed to say to get you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
So I'm trying to get better in that aspect to figure out what the hell to say to get everybody on the same agenda, because everybody right now is on different agendas, and we're just so negative right now. Like I said, as a team, the last couple of years we was like this, and it just feel like we just, you know, just gradually just growing away from each other.
And following their loss to the Boston Celtics, Anthony Edwards said, "It's not how I want to play, of course. I'm only 23. I don't want to just be passing the ball all night," when he was talked about being double teamed by the Boston Celtics. And then their following game, he ended up dropping 53 points and just 2 assists in a 14-point loss to the Detroit Pistons. Now, he did follow up that game with an 8-assist performance against the LA Clippers, but it is kind of odd how the dynamic of this Minnesota Timberwolves team has been this year, because Julius Randle has been a fine offensive talent for them, but he's definitely not what Karl-Anthony Towns used to be next to Anthony Edwards. As this year, Julius Randle is averaging just under 20 points per game, averaging around 7 rebounds and 4.5 assists, 47% from the field, 36% from 3, and 82% from the line. He's definitely not as good as an offensive player as Karl-Anthony Towns, and defensively, he may not be that much different from Cat, but Cat, I feel like, gave so much more energy on that end of the floor. I know Timberwolves fans are starting to realize what Julius Randle can be when things are not going well for him, and how disengaged he could look on both ends of the floor when things are not going the way he wants them to. And it's the constant body language that just doesn't feel right for a team that wants to go back to the Western Conference Finals, where they just were last May. And Randle does have a player option at the end of the season, and he could become an unrestricted free agent if he opts out of that $30 million option for 2026. This was the main player they got back on the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, and they could lose him for nothing at the end of the year if he doesn't want to return to Minnesota. And there have been a lot of guys on this team that have been underperforming offensively this year. Jaden McDaniels, who they gave a big extension to a couple off seasons ago, is averaging just under 10 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and is shooting 44% from the field, 33% from 3, and 73% from the line. All offensive numbers are down from his breakout year back in 2023. He's still an incredible defender, but he's getting paid to be one of the top offensive options. And when you're already paying Rudy Gobert all that money to just really be mainly a defensive player and be so limited offensively, you can't have another one of that in Jaden McDaniels. So he needs to step up offensively as well, or we can start talking about a Jaden McDaniels trade down the line. A rough start to start off his Minnesota Timberwolves career, but obviously it was big for him. He just had a kid. He was moving from New York, where he just had the best year of his career, playing with his best friends, going to Minnesota, and he has been better over the last couple of weeks as well. He's still shooting 36% from 3 on the year, and he's being asked to play a completely different role than what he did in New York. He's dribbling the ball more. He's asked to do a lot more as a traditional point guard rather than in New York, where he was just coming off of screens, not taking any dribbles, and taking a ton of threes a night. He's taking about 2 less threes per game this season, and is trying to orchestrate more as a traditional point guard, which I don't think best suits Donte DiVincenzo's game. Mike Conley has been disappointing offensively this year, but he is 37 years old. Not everybody can age like LeBron James.
Rebound hustling is Christie to the cutting James. Oh! With the left hand, and he makes the steal. Again, I will say this, year 22.
Naz Reid's been fine this year, but he's asked to do a little bit more offensively with Karl-Anthony Towns in New York, and I would say he's having somewhat of a down year offensively compared to his 6th Man of the Year season he had last year. He's also somebody that could be a free agent at the end of the year where he has a player option. And yes, this team does have Detroit's top 13 protected first-round pick this year, but they also have to give their first-round pick to the Utah Jazz this year, and then again in 2027 and 2029, and in 2026 and 2028, they have to swap the picks with Utah as well, and they're going to get the least favorable out of those swaps. And in 2030 and 2031, they're going to have to dish out some first-round picks to San Antonio from the trade up for the Rob Dillingham pick back in the 2024 draft. And Dillingham excites me. He did at Kentucky. He could be this microwave scorer off the bench, but I feel like he hasn't gotten ample playing time over in Minnesota this year because they're trying to contend right now, and Dillingham was a little bit more of a project player. And Minnesota is one of the more expensive teams in the NBA this season, with Gobert making $43 million, Anthony Edwards making $42 million, Julius Randle $33 million, McDaniels $13 million, Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo over $10 million as well. They are definitely not going to have as much flexibility cap space wise going forward, with the second apron looming over them at all times. They also have limited draft picks to dish out as well. So trying to figure out where they can go after their sky high season in 2024, making it to the Western Conference Finals. This year right now though, I don't believe that they are going to be a top 4 team in the Western Conference, as they are currently the 21st ranked offensive team in the NBA. Yes, they are ranked 8th defensively, which puts them at 12th net rating wise. So they are not top 5 in offense or top 5 in defense, and history shows us that you have to be at least top 5 in one of those to be a legitimate finals threat. And with the way OKC is playing right now without Chet Holmgren, the way Memphis is playing and the assets they have, same with Houston, and Denver still has Jokic, Dallas is going to get a little bit more healthier down the stretch of the season. It's going to be tough for Minnesota to go back to where they were last year, and I don't really see the point of having this be a retool year or a bridge year, because where are they going to add? Is there going to be a big name that they're going to try to pair up with Anthony Edwards, like somebody of the caliber of Karl-Anthony Towns, but they could be a little bit more methodical with it, where they don't have to worry about the second apron, because that is a whole new thing that you have to worry about in the NBA. Would they go after somebody like Jimmy Butler? Would that make any sense? A Jimmy Butler return to Minnesota? Probably not. Would they go after somebody like a Brandon Ingram? I think that is possible. They would have the assets to go out and get him. He could be a better number 2 than Julius Randle to Anthony Edwards. It fits that timeline a little bit more. I don't think they're going to ever have the assets to get a Kevin Durant or Devin Booker if they ever become available, if Phoenix decides to maybe enter into a rebuild. So I think they're going to have to make moves on the margins, getting guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker that they've done in the past, and Naz Reid, finding these guys in the second round that could develop over time. But Anthony Edwards is playing still some of the best basketball we have seen in Minnesota as a number 1 option. And at times this year, it just feels like this whole dynamic is off in Minnesota, and I wonder where they go from here. You guys can let me know down below, because they took a massive risk trading away a fan favorite, arguably the best player in franchise history, up there with Kevin Garnett and Karl-Anthony Towns, out of nowhere to the New York Knicks, and they have not been as good this year so far as they would have liked. Maybe they're going to figure out the chemistry over the next couple of weeks leading up until the trade deadline, but if they don't, their chance to upgrade this team is right now before the deadline passes, and you can't afford for Naz Reid to leave in free agency for nothing, or Julius Randle, because you're going to lose out on valuable trade pieces down the line. So that is going to be for me. Hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you think about the Minnesota Timberwolves right now and where they can go from here. Are they in a bad spot? Are they in a just fine spot? Let me know. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are not already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.